well met, and welcome to Dungeon Mastiff, a channel all about creating original D&D content right here for you. If you like this video, please consider supporting us on Patreon at Dungeon Mastiff, or subscribing to let us know you've liked this channel. And today's quick note is that we reached 100 subscribers. That's amazing. Thank you so much for all the support you've shown, and please keep up the great work by continuing to subscribe. Today's video is based off a quick comment from this person. So anyways, that last part about posting more tips on Dungeondraft leads me here to top 5 tips for Dungeondraft number 3. So let's dive right in. Alright, now, once again, we're back on the home screen of Dungeondraft, and so I'm just going to check our assets folder and load in this asset pack called FA Starter Pack V2.0, which is a really good Dungeondraft integration asset pack by Forgotten Adventure, which I found free online, and we're going to use this later. So let's just go in and create a new map. Alright, so here we are on a new map, and tip number 1 is trying to balance having a map too empty and too busy. Let me show you what I mean. So if I change this dirt to some grass, great, it's grass. What more did we expect? Let's just turn grid and snap off here, and I'll find some trees. I don't know why I turned up the clarity from fuzzy more to exact, but I did, so deal with it. So let's just turn the spread down a little, and okay, this is looking kind of decent, but okay, yeah, I take that back. It's not that well crafted. We could do a lot more, but this is just a proof of point, remember? Okay, let's go into the water brush, and add a little river here down the bottom of our map. And while we wait for this to load, because Dungeondraft doesn't like you painting in a large bit of river at a time, I'll show you what I mean about this map. We could just zoom out and call this a day. Like, we could just say, you know, I've made my sort of shape here, my river. This is a great map, but for me, I think we can do a lot more with this. Like, if we were to add little details around, if we were to make this a little bit more busy. In terms of busy, like, if you saw our first top 5 tips video, you could do like a 3-layered forest effect, like I talked about there. The link for that video will be in the description. So a 3-layered forest effect, and adding little details everywhere. Like, even if we just do like a minute of quick, or like half a minute of quick touch-ups, like if I was to grab a little bit of sand, and just like work it around the edges of this river a little bit. I mean, even that, it's not great. It taken me like 15 seconds to do, but it just makes this map look just a little bit better. If we were like to change the bottom of the river to like dirt instead, it would look a whole lot better. But my point is not having a map too empty. But I'll show you what too busy kind of looks like now. So if I instead change my search to bushes, which doesn't work, let's change that back to bush, and then let's just turn the spread all the way down, like all the way down, and then we just absolutely go to town with the bushes, like, oh my god. And there's bushes everywhere. Yep, bushes everywhere. We've achieved our goal of making this not empty anymore, but now there's just things everywhere. It's just way too hard to look at. And this, I think, is an example of too busy. I think you want to try and balance having, like, it's okay to have a lot of things in one space, as long as you balance that out with an equal area of like empty space. So if you have a bunch of stuff up here in this sort of corner up here, then having a big empty space of equal area will help you really balance out the tone of your map, and make it look a whole lot better, in my opinion. So that's tip number 1, balancing having a map that's too busy and too empty. Alright, tip number 2, it sort of goes hand in hand with the first one, but it's using a bit of texture to break up the monotony of empty space. And this is how you can sort of make your map look less empty and a bit more busy. So if I look up stump, yeah, so I can just grab this little tree stump over here and look up some leaves. And if I go into the scatter tool, I'll be able to do this a lot better. But if I look up some leaves, I can just drop them in around the base of this trunk. Yeah, and so that took me 30 seconds to do, but if we add a couple more stumps and a couple little more details, maybe some paths running through here, this map will start to look a whole lot better. Like, it's very rare to see a huge swath of empty land, especially in something that's as busy as a forest. There's generally something that there could be, like, this sort of area. If this sort of area is fine to be left empty, but like this whole area through here, I don't think it's good to leave that all empty. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I say we could leave this empty, but we need a detail like here, and then because you don't have like we talked about in the first tip, you can't have a map that's too empty nor too busy. And so I think you can just kind of judge it for yourself, but kind of one detail. I think I can copy and paste this. I might be wrong. One detail every sort of third of your map. So if you have like 2 details every horizontal space across, you know what I'm trying to say. There's like a tree stump here and a tree stump here is like a good spacing of detail, I think. And so using this sort of texturing to break up the monotony of a large space will help you find that balance, and it'll make your maps look a whole lot better. So that's number 2. Tip number 2, using texture like little details to break up the monotony of a large swath of empty space. Alright, tip number 3 is not cross-using assets from different packs. And like at the start of the video, I loaded in a new asset pack to Dungeondraft, and I'll show you what I mean. So online you can find asset packs, which are basically like different textures you can use for different objects. So if I look up tree, let me spell tree right. Alright, I look up tree. That didn't quite work. Why didn't that work? Anyways, here is an asset from the FA integration that I was talking about before. Let me compare this to a dead tree from Dungeondraft. Let's just zoom in a little on that. See, this one is like ultra realistic. Like this, the FA textures or FA sprites look really crisp, but while this one, it's a unique art style that Dungeondraft has. And so my tip is not mixing assets from different packs. So like either choose one. So for this, I think we'll stick with the sort of Dungeondrafty look. But if we wanted to go full FA, we'd go full FA. Like change the grass to a let's see, into like grass A03. And I'll show you, even if we just change the grass, this looks absolutely horrible, these Dungeondraft sprites on an FA map. And so commonly I see people mixing this. And in some instances, mixing different asset packs can look good, but just on the whole, I would like stay away from it if you're new, until you sort of get the idea of what looks good or what mixes well and what doesn't. So that's tip number 3. Don't cross-use assets from different packs. Alright, tip number 4, and I found this tip not so long ago online myself. If we just go over here to our Google and we look up Dungeondraft asset hacks, and we go to images, look at this. This blew my mind when I found this out. You can use, like I was talking about, you might want like a wine rack asset pack, a wine rack asset. And there's a really cool asset pack online, but it doesn't mix well with the Dungeondraft one. So creatively combining different assets inside of Dungeondraft will help you create whole new different sprites, and that's so cool to me. That just blew my mind. So like you can make a standing mirror with targets and pillars and planks. That's insane. Using your creativity will be really helpful in this. In like mixing. Oh my word! Look at this. In just creating new sprites in general. Yes, see, sword plus colored point lights equals magic sword. That's amazing. So if you just follow these, you can create some really cool custom unique assets in Dungeondraft just with your creativity. And so that'll you don't need to rely on other asset packs to get assets that you normally don't have, because you can just create them in Dungeondraft. So that's tip number 4, looking up these Dungeondraft asset hacks and maybe making some for your own. Alright, tip number 5 also involves looking at things that other people did. So if you just look up D&D maps and then go into images, some of the clarity on these maps are just insane to me. And there are things you can do, things you can take away from this as well. For example, they could have just put in a couple of trees here without any of these shrubs or rocks and called it a day. But what I really like is the little breaking up on this path, like just adding a little bit of sand here and there to break up the monotony of just a big space of grass is really cool. Adding rocks, and then look, the water, they added a little flow thing, so the rock changes its flow, the water changes its flow around the rock, and that's just really cool to me. So if you just look at other maps, you can learn a lot from what they do, and this one was by Neutral Party on Patreon. I'd suggest checking them out. Them and Zpiku will have their links in the description because they are really good map makers and they could teach you a lot about making really good maps in Dungeondraft. So that's tip number 5. Looking at what other people have done and then using the things you learn from them to make your own maps. And just quickly before you go, I have another tip. Tip 6 is to subscribe if you want to keep up with really cool D&D tips and Dungeondraft map making. We do all sorts of videos around those topics, so if you want to keep updated on these, just subscribe. It would mean so much to me, and you can always unsubscribe later. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for getting us to 100 subscribers, and I'll see you in the next video.